So I'm making a castle out of Worbla, and I want it to have kind of a monster look, kind of like Castle Grayskull. And the reason I'm making this is for my daughter to display her Bindlewood characters, these little monsters. I've had them in a few of my other videos. And I'm starting off with a foil base, and I'm covering that with black Worbla. So I chose the black Worbla because I'm going to paint this, and that way all the little crevices, if I don't get the paint in there, it'll just be black underneath, which will be what my base color will be. Plus, it'll be easier to kind of see the difference when I start adding the bricks to see where I'm at. Now, I want to draw out the openings for the door and the windows, and I'm going to cut those out because that's going to go all the way through. Like my other Worbla sculptures, I do a foil base, but this one I'm going to do a little bit different because I'm going to take that foil out of there when I'm done with it, because I want it so she can display some of the characters inside the castle and they can be looking out the windows or door. So I'm going to go ahead and make all the little stones that make up the castle. Now, I thought about doing this, like making all the stones and just building them up kind of like, Legos, but I wanted it to be, really sturdy and have something behind it, because I think if I stacked them on top of each other, there'd be like parts where the light would shine through. And so this will give that, illusion. I don't know if it's an illusion. This will give it something in the back that'll stop that. So you can see here, there's a lot of little stones I had to make for this piece. I'm going to go ahead and finish up that. I started doing the towers. There's 2 towers on this one. So you can see there about how high it is. And there's a good shot on the left of all, those are my Bindlewood characters, but she has some of the similar ones, and there's different ones. I'll put a link to bindlewood.com so you can check out their stuff. And I thought it'd be fun to put a few little smiley faces around on the castle to add it some more character, make it so it's not so serious. And then, since, like I said, it was kind of inspired by Castle Grayskull, I want kind of a monster look to this castle to go with those characters. And so I made a bunch of teeth to put on for the front gate, give it a jaw bridge. Now I'm pulling out all the foil. Luckily I can save most of this and use it for another project, but this was quite a bit of work. Just pulling it out. I didn't want to come out in one big piece, but it worked out really well, and it kind of made a cool texture inside, even though you won't see the texture, when it's on display. Well, I take that back. You'll see in a few spots. But here's the castle all sculpted. I had some little platforms, and I finished around the eyes and the mouth. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the lower jaw bridge, and I added a thick wire there so it'd be articulated. Now I'm just going to add a coat of gesso. I'm going to cover the entire castle with gesso and let that dry overnight. That just helps the paint adhere to the Worbla. Now I'm giving it a base coat of black, and like I said, I don't have to worry about getting all the way deep in those crevices because I use black Worbla as the base. Now I could use black Worbla for the rocks and I wouldn't have to worry about the insides as much, but I really wanted visually, as I was working on it, to see a difference of where my rocks were with the black, and just it just worked better for me. Now I'm going to go ahead and dry brush the whole thing with several coats of gray, just lightening it up as I go, starting off with a very dark coat, and then I'm going to transition to a lighter coat, and then I'm going to do some even lighter details on it around certain areas. I'm getting that all done. If you're enjoying this video and you want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell. I try to post several times a month. I'm shooting for once a week, but I know, life happens, and that's not gonna always happen. That's not gonna always be possible, but I'm gonna try. So I'm just lightening up a few rocks, giving it some more character to it. I lightened up the teeth and then lightened up around the windows. I thought that would be a good look to have those a little bit lighter stone. As you can see here, that's all done. So now I need to go ahead and paint the rest of the details. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the door. Now, a little info, I didn't show it in the sculpting, but that skull on the front door is made with white Worbla, and I'm not going to paint that. And that's by design. That actually sticks out a little bit past the door. So when that door opens and, it hits on whatever surface it's on, it's going to be that white Worbla hitting on it and not a painted surface. So I'm hoping that'll avoid the door getting like chipped up if it opens and closes. I don't know how much she's going to open and close it, but I thought, in theory, that would help keep that area safe. Now that I've got everything painted, I'm going to go ahead and give it a coat of varnish. I don't normally do this with my Worbla sculptures, but I wanted to make sure this piece was more durable since it was going to be used for a display piece and have characters on it and inside of it, so it might be handled a little bit more. And even though, they're only going to be on certain areas of it, I kind of wanted everything to be, match. So once the varnish is done, I'm gonna go ahead and let that dry overnight. So at this point, I am almost done with the castle. I'm really happy how it's turning out. And normally, I would say this is probably where I would finish, you know, be done. But I'm really wanting to go that extra step with my sculptures. And so I thought, what could I do to this castle to make it even better? Add moss. There's a couple other things, but moss is where I'm gonna go with next. So I've got this blended turf fine grain. Got this at Hobby Lobby, and you can also purchase stuff like this at Hobbytown, any hobby store, or online. Just do a search for blended turf fine green. This one's by JTT, and it's scenery. Oh, they have sceneryproducts.com. Check out sceneryproducts.com. I'm doing the arrow thing down, like I'm gonna put a link down there. I might forget. I don't know. All right, let's get going on this. Now to apply the moss. So I don't recall doing anything like this in a long time, but I'm just using some clear Elmer's glue and just using this little stick tool to spread that around on the edges of some of the rocks. And then I'm using this little crafting tool that has kind of a ridge in there to dump some out on to the castle. And then I'll let that dry completely. I had some excess here, so I'm going to clean that up with my little desk vacuum. Got this at Target for $5. That thing's sweet. So I let that dry for a while, and I don't want to say I was unhappy. I felt like it needed a little more moss. And so I'm going to go ahead and add some to the right side. In fact, I had talked to a friend of mine about this, if she thought it needed more, and she thought it needed some on this side, but not, you know, not go up as high, kind of make it look more cohesive. Is that the right word? I think so. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry overnight, and we'll move on to the next step. So I finished up the mossy effect on the castle. Now I'm going to make the eyes. So the eyes are going to be made out of Worbla crystal art. I'm using their translucent. So right now it just looks like little beads of glass. And I just need a little bit. Hopefully that should be enough. A little more. Okay. Now I'm using my heat gun to heat this up, and I'm going to heat it on low. Now on the white, you can notice it becomes clear when it comes, you know, hot enough. The clear obviously is already clear, so you just kind of have to do it and test it. By doing it on the low setting, I am able to still, you know, touch it with my bare hands. I did get some heat resistant gloves, and it just stuck on them, and that didn't work. So I just used my hands with it. So as always, when using a heat gun and thermoplastics, be very careful. So I've got my Worbla deco art all heated up, and it gets pretty hot to you know, to heat it up. But once it cools down, it takes a long time for it to cool down to the point where you can't sculpt it. And I thought this would work really well to just do a thin layer inside behind the eyes and heat those up and attach those to the black Worbla. And that way, you know, it gives this almost kind of a clouded window look where those eyes are at. The other windows I want completely open because characters are going to be on a little, I made little shelves in there. So now I need to add some lights. So I had these fairy lights left over from a project I never did years ago. So I'm like, I'm going to put them in here. So I'm going to use some hot glue to attach them. Now I did give myself enough slack so she could take that battery pack out and switch the batteries if, you know, or when they die, without having to take the fairy lights completely out. I'm just going around and hot gluing them inside. Now I want to make sure I don't have the light bleeding out the side of the castle. So I decided to do these strips of black cloth, and I'm kind of thinking of like those meat coolers where they have those straps of plastic, but I'm just doing it in strips because I didn't want to do one big piece and have it be awkward for her to try to insert characters in there. But I thought this will block the light from coming in, or going out the back and kind of messing up the display. All right, let's take a look at the final castle. Then I went ahead and brought it back inside into my art room, get a little more light on it so you can see all the details. I'm really happy how this turned out. Because it did take over 40 hours to create this. This is about a 6-month project, you know, so off and on, obviously. 40 hours, I should be able to get that done in a week. Well, you know, in theory. But anyway, yeah, so I'm really happy how it turned out. I do want to make a larger castle for myself sometime, but I've got about 4 projects I'm working on right now, so that's probably going to be next year at the earliest. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to check out some of this other content I have, and you know, like I said earlier, be sure to subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. It'd be awesome if, you know, I'm at about 8,400 subscribers right now, so if you guys could help get me to 10,000, that'd be sweet. All right, well, thanks for watching, and remember, never stop creating. Bye.